All right, so Xander recommended a film. Let's talk about
Yes.
it.
All right. I recommended a 2015 film by László Nemes, a Holocaust film, so fun for the whole family, called
Yeah,
Son of Saul. It is one of I saw it in quarantine, and it absolutely captivated me. And ever since then I've seen it I think I've seen it twice since then. No, three times. Sorry, counting this most recent viewing. And it's just slowly become one of my favorite films, top 20, easy. And I think that it just works on pretty much every level. I love the acting. I love the excellent use of depth of field and cinematography. I love how the director went in with a plan. He knew what he wanted to do and knew how to do it and did not compromise that vision for anybody. It is so clearly a beautiful artistic expression, even though the film itself is like incredibly dark and bleak and fucked up. It's just
Yep.
it's so rich. Like I just there's nothing about it that I would call manipulative or fake or what's the word, overbearing. There's just nothing about it that I would call straight up disrespectful. Just everything about it is trying to tell a very dark and harsh story, but it's still, with its relative shortcomings with budget, I'm sure, because this film does have, I think it did have a pretty low budget. It still manages to be a better looking and more emotionally investing movie than anything like Schindler's List. Like fuck, it's just so much better than most films in its medium, and
Yeah.
it's hard to top it, honestly, in my eyes. Big Mac,
yeah,
Grub,
yeah.
go. What are your
Uh,
thoughts on Son of Saul?
Basically what you said. The main thing that I loved about it is just that it doesn't like there's so many Holocaust films that try to make like a sort of
Yeah,
melancholic tone, and it's just very
I
straight to the
agree.
point. It's very bleak. It doesn't. It takes everything seriously. It
It's
plays it
not.
realistically.
Yeah, it's not trying to be like, oh, the Holocaust was so bad. Like we already
Yeah,
know. Like fuck it, we are. There's a whole subgenre,
Schindler's
yeah.
and
It
Son of Saul perfectly just
it,
like
it
is
plays it
like.
plays it out like it should be played out,
Exactly. It doesn't
and
waste
they
time telling you how bad the Holocaust was.
and they do a great job at capturing that atmosphere with all
Hmm.
the technical stuff and everything.
One thing I forgot to mention is that I think it does a fantastic job highlighting. I think a lot of Holocaust movies that we watch, are all like trying to get the whole scope of the Holocaust, or trying to get the whole scope of what happened, and how awful it was, and how emotionally devastating it was to many, many people. But I think that Son of Saul does a perfect job at representing what it was like for the individual. Because literally the whole entire film focus the only person who's in focus for most of the movie is Saul. It's all about him. There's nothing. It's not about anybody else. Even
Yeah,
though there are characters that
Mm.
are in focus, they're only in focus when they're interacting with Saul, and all the atrocities and shit are in the background, out of focus, because that's just not the focus of the film. It's about Saul, and that really works.
Yeah.
Jakob,
All
what do
right.
you think?
Yeah, I really one of the main things I loved about it is just how personal it is, and just like what you were saying, Xander, about how it's basically solely shot from like Saul's perspective, and like those long tracking shots. Like it really is super personal, and I think it's maybe the most unique Holocaust film in that way.
Hmm.
I love that they didn't make like the violence like the forefront in like a lot of like Schindler's List. Obviously, violence is like a forefront. Like in this, it's like in the background, kept blurry, and it's kind of left to your imagination in a way. And I love how, I guess, yeah, they kept everything on Saul. I thought the story, like actually the story itself, like Saul trying to find a way to bury his son, is just very personal, and it just instantly connects you to his character.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, great performances, great ending. I mean, that's kind of what I got.
Awesome. Finkel, I know you're muted right now, but it's your turn.
Oh, it was shit. I feel like y'all kind of said exactly what I wanted to say.
It was shit.
Yeah, no, very
The fuck?
realistic and fucked up movie to watch. It's kind of hard to watch at points, but yeah, really good.
Yeah.
I don't know, keynote, masterpiece. I don't know. That's all I got.
True.
Sounds about right. All right. That would leave. Leave. Next up is Seth.
I mean, it's pretty sad, innit? I don't know. It's it took me a while to get into it. I'll be honest. I was a bit unfocused. Hence why it took me 2 sittings to actually watch it and finish it. And it was just very bleak for my mood. I wasn't exactly depressed at the time, and I loved it. I thought it was unique and like the claustrophobia. I love claustrophobia when it comes to cinematography and cinema. And the way that Son of Saul focuses on the character more realistic than anything. It wasn't trying to exploit anything.
Yeah.
And like you said, it wasn't trying to tell us that the Holocaust is bad because like everyone fucking knows that already. But like, yeah, I can't really say anything else. But I mean, I loved the ending. The ending was incredible. It's perfectly paced. It's really well shot as well. Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, that's it, I guess.
All right. Awesome. Ron or Aaron or Aaron or expert of all things tender. What do you got?
It's a very good movie. That's all. I'm kidding, but it's very
Nice.
organic. It's practically an all close-up movie, and it works in its favor. It never feels repetitive. They give you a lot of time to breathe when they do show like the background out of focus and when they don't show Saul, and I appreciated that much. On my first watch, it was a little off-putting with how, I guess, lost I was in the progression of the story. But on my second watch, it all just kind of came together, and I pretty much got where everything was and how the story was moving along. And even with the commentary on, it was pretty clear, like the
Oh, you did watch it with
filmmakers-
commentary.
Yeah. The filmmakers wanted to invoke that sense of like being lost in this crematorium and
Horrible environment,
this
yeah.
very claustrophobic space, and it feels like a living hell.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you feel all the warmth and textures the characters are feeling. Like it's so immersive, and there's such a great emphasis on the weight of the environment.
Yes.
And it's very immersive, especially with its sound. It's mostly done in the background, and for example, there's subtle cues like whenever Saul's son gets introduced, he's introduced in the background. You hear his breathing, and you don't get to see him, but you see Saul's reaction, and his eyes just light up, and I guess fill with hope whenever he sees that this boy is still alive amidst all the chaos. He survived a living hell, and it's pretty impressive how much they dedicated to showing important parts of the story with sound. They never really put it in your face. They never suggest or emphasize that you should focus on it. It's something that you have to pick up and have to like really pay attention to, so you won't miss out on the finer details within the story.
A lot of effort.
And I really appreciated the obvious emphasis on Saul and like how much his face and how much his eyes can really tell most of his emotions and most of what he's feeling, so we can connect with him more. And it's a very powerful tool, using close-ups and just using the human face to invoke such emotion and brevity in the situation. And for a film that doesn't really focus on the background too much, they really do put a lot of effort in staging and these whole different placements of little details throughout the story that you really have to pick up on your own. You know, it's something that's not emphasized. It's mostly just let on in the background, which, you know, adds so many layers to the life of the movie. You feel all that effort in. It's very impressive, and I really appreciated it, and I really loved it. It's very gripping. It's pretty horrific, but it's necessary to tell a story like this in this way, especially. It doesn't sugarcoat anything. It's real, it's raw, and most of it felt like a documentary at times.
Yeah.
Like it could have been.
I agree.
But yeah, all fantastic.
Awesome. All right, Vinny, what did you think of Son of Saul?
Alrighty. I'm trying to think of things that haven't been said already, so I'll just keep it as brief as I can. I think this is a masterpiece, obviously, and I think it's really well put together in just every aspect, really. Like, it's a movie that serves to the importance of presentation and the finer details of it. Because on its own, the story isn't particularly bad or nonsensical or like doesn't make sense. It's a functional plot and the characters are like consistent. But like what really elevates the movie is all of those individual details, like all of the intricacies of the long takes in the cinematography, just how the camera looks. The movie and how like the movie it feels like a movie that could have been made in the 40s because they took like the 35 millimeter negative they shot on and they didn't like edit the foxing off of the edges and kept it in 4:3. So like
Yeah.
it just makes it feel like a relic from that time period, really, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. Even though the movie was literally made it was literally only made like 7-8 years ago.
Oh yeah, 6 years ago I think it was.
Yeah,
2015?
2005. I mean 2015. What am I thinking? Fuck.
Yeah.
Alright.
I'd say this is my favorite movie from 2015.
I would maybe go that far, although The Revenant is probably one that
Son of
might
Saul
take the
is
cake
so
for me.
much
But
better than
it's close.
Nah.
Well, you know, you're entitled to your opinion, Seth. No, I'm just kidding. All right, well, okay, so I wanted to specifically talk about something that really interested me. I love going through when I'm done with movies, just usually any movie that I like, especially movies that I love. I immediately go to the trivia page on IMDb just because I'm very interested in that because I like reading up about how the film got made or what the crew went through. I think it adds a bit more digestibility to the film. And in this movie, I came across something. It's literally the first entry. During the preparation, director László Nemes, cinematographer, oh god, how do I pronounce that? The director, cinematographer, and production designer made a pledge to stick to certain rules or a dogma, which included the film cannot look beautiful, the film cannot look appealing, we cannot make a horror film. Staying with Saul means not going beyond his own field of vision, hearing, or presence. The camera is his companion. It stays with him throughout this hell. And I think that is what separates this movie from other Holocaust movies. Like I said earlier, it's all about the bigger picture with other movies, which is why I think this movie and even The Pianist stand out to me, because it's not about the bigger picture in those movies. It's about the individual and how and one person's experience. I think when you observe things, when you're observing one person as like a camera over their shoulder kind of thing, especially when they dedicate with Son of Saul, when they dedicate you being in person, being like only Saul being in focus most of the time. I think that's incredibly effective and almost makes you feel like you're his only companion. You're his only friend. You're the only person who's going with him through this hell as it's going. And I think that's an incredibly effective way to tell the story. And you know what? You are completely right, Aaron. Like literally throughout the entire, there's like a brief scene where he goes into the crematorium where they actually burn the body, and oh god, like I remember it felt hot in my room when I watched it. I was like, oh my god. It also smelled terrible. Like you literally felt as if you were in that room. The sound design is just perfect. It matters so much. This and Come and See are like the prime examples of sound design done well. And if I ever need to show anybody an example, it would be either this or Come and See.
The sound design could very much play character as well. It's very crucial in the end, you know. They do such an impressive job of getting you into his headspace, and they found it very immersive in the long run.
Yeah. It was very immersive. Like, sound. I agree that the sound is probably the most important. Like if you watched it in like a without a great sound system, it probably wouldn't. It'd probably disenhance. I don't know if I said that right. The experience, it would make it
I know.
worse.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that's why I told you guys to
Definitely.
watch it on like either like a big TV with a good speaker or on your computer with headphones, because it's seriously you cannot experience it. This is a movie that I would say that if anyone says they watched this on their phone, I would say you haven't seen this movie yet. You haven't seen the movie. I don't care how big your screen is. That's not the point. You're missing out on one of the most fundamental aspects of the entire film. And you know me, like I'm not against watching movies on your phone, but like with movies like this, I think especially this one, this is like one of the huge things, one of the huge movies where you can't watch it on your phone and say that you've seen it. It's just you can't, because you didn't watch it with a good speaker. And even if you watched it with headphones, I mean, you're still watching it on your fucking phone. Like if you can watch it on the best screen you can, or on your computer, like seriously, you need to be immersed in the moment. It
Get real.
seriously helps us. Yeah, get real. It really helps us. It really helps with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It really does.
Yeah.
The camera traps us with him, so we feel trapped just like he does.
Exactly.
Yeah, the aspect ratio adds to the claustrophobia.
Very much.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think especially with the depth of field choices, I love how all the atrocities are out of focus. If anything, if anything, it makes the universe feel a bit more real, honestly. Because again, it's all about Saul's perspective. To him, this is everyday life. He's seen this before. This isn't anything new. So when it's not in focus, it's much more. I feel much more connected to Saul, because it's just clearly like his everyday routine. Like he's burning the corpses of his own fucking people. Like
Yeah.
this is just nothing to him. So I think that when they show that stuff out of focus, it just helps me get more invested in the character, because you feel bad for him. Like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing feels like it was elaborately staged for the camera. You
Mhm.
know, it all just
Yeah.
feels very natural. It's like Hanukkah levels of staging where everything just is. It's
It doesn't
not,
feel
even
set up
though
for
it
the
is set
movie.
up, it doesn't feel set up for
Yeah.
the camera.
It
or-
feels set up for the sake of it feels set up, just to add a bit more realism,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the pit scene especially is like a testament to that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When
Definitely.
it comes to like direction, I said this after I finished it. I don't think I've seen anything as well directed as Son of Saul in like from the decade at least. Because like it felt like even the side characters it felt so tight. It felt like
Yeah.
it felt like
Very.
it felt like the director never said just do this. It felt like he
No.
gave every single like little even extra or whatever like a specific thing to do, and it was all so cohesive, and it fit.
Yeah,
It was
for
so
sure.
perfect when it comes to the direction. Like I don't know, the direction was absolutely immaculate.
Uh-huh.
It-
I
I
100%
can't think of any
agree.
direction flaws. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like I don't know.
I also
I
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
No,
I also
yeah,
want to touch on the fact that there was no music until
Yes.
the very end of the movie,
Yeah.
and the track that they played. And I also want to talk about the ending a little bit, but first the music. What do you guys think of that choice? Just to have no music until the credits.
It's the best. The movie
It worked
wouldn't have worked with
perfectly.
music.
Yeah, I
it
can't
wouldn't have
imagine.
worked with music.
I can't imagine music being played throughout the film. It just
It-
makes it.
Mhm.
It makes it
yeah.
feel more natural.
It would feel manipulative with music, I think.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's very
Yeah, I
tricky
agree.
to use music.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you use music, you do walk the fine line between it being manipulative or even downright distracting.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Especially in a movie like
Exactly.
this.
This
Yeah,
didn't really need
definitely.
it.
I think in The Pianist it works better because it's literally like it's all just music by him,
Yeah.
so it feels
Yeah.
much more purposeful. But in this movie, since there's no focus on music, it wouldn't make sense to have music. Just in this film in particular, I'm not against movies using music, but like I think directors who know when to use music and when not to use music, if at all, are like the difference. Like that is the difference between a good director and a mediocre director. Any mediocre director would say, "Oh yeah, you've got to have music in the film. It's an emotional focal point." It's like, yeah, but sometimes the filmmaking and the story can speak for itself. Sometimes you don't need music. Sometimes the
Yeah,
music
true.
only makes those moments even more blunt. Like it makes the stab of those moments, the emotional stab of those moments, it makes the blade more blunt and more dull. I think that music can be a sharpener or a duller. It's seriously like
Yeah.
it's seriously, yeah, Aaron, you're completely right. It's a really walking the fine line kind of thing. Also, I want to talk about the ending because apparently
Yeah,
that's what all you guys really got kicked in the nuts by.
Holy
So
shit, it was
let's.
like, oh,
So
fuck.
yeah, you guys have the first word actually. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to touch upon something before, you know, a
Oh,
little
okay.
tidbit, but
Yeah?
I'm sending the photo to you guys right now. They never really stated it in the commentary, but this photo really looks like the photo the guy took in the shed, you know, the prisoner when they were outside of the crematorium.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the
I was
camera.
gonna
Yeah.
talk about that later.
But this photo could very much fall in line with that scene, and it really adds a lot to it.
Yeah, like that scene
Big
where
kid,
where the guy's taking the pictures and he's like they're trying not to be caught.
Yeah.
Literally,
Exactly.
it's a film that, I mean, it's a scene that recreates these the Sonderkommando photographs is what they're called, I believe, and they're seriously and apparently they're the only photos of the extermination process.
Yeah, there's like very few that exist.
Yeah, that
or not-
exist. Those are
yeah.
literally the only ones, and you can find them online. Like, but yeah, that's so fucking like that hits. That hits. That hits.
There was also a moment in that same scene that I really liked where, well, I don't know if you would call it a glimmer of hope, but where the Nazis overfogged the machine or they added too much smoke and
Yeah, before they got swarmed by the
it
soldiers.
overtakes the entire field there, and Saul just looks out into the
Yeah,
distance.
I think that moment was incredibly effective. It was just a moment
Yeah.
where there was no violence, there was no more killing, there was no more oppression. It was just Saul alone in the fog, and it looks like as if he felt at peace. And then the soldiers came in and got him to his knees and put a gun to his head. Like, yeah. So it's like, you know, I mean, it's a fleeting sense of hope, but you know, it's still there. And
Which the exact
the
same.
exact same can be said for the
Yep.
ending. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
And
segue.
I don't know who it was in this group, but someone said that it was an ending that originally like you didn't like because it was too hopeful, but then like the final foot dropped, and then you were like, oh, never mind.
That was a great subversion. I really liked that because like the entire movie, it builds up so much depression and like anxiety and just hatred, and then you get
Yeah.
this one moment of joy in Saul's face, and then it just gets ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ironically,
The first-
you don't see the final face. I mean, you do, but then it all focuses on the boy.
Yeah.
The one time in the movie that the
Smiles.
that the camera does not focus on Saul, it follows this boy as he runs into the forest and gets caught by the Nazis, and then the Nazis find all the escaped Jewish people, and then you hear the gunshots, and
It's
like,
also
oh,
the
fuck
only
me.
time you see Saul smile in the entire movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Yeah.
works so well.
Very
It's so
effective.
depressing. He had one last smile before his demise.
I mean, I think that's how everyone should go out. Have one last smile, and then
Fucking
get
murdered by Nazis.
and then in the words of Danny DeVito. So, anyways, I started blasting. And I think that moment is. I agree with Aaron. At first, I found it to be a slightly unrealistic. I was like, wait, hold on, no one escapes, and no one escapes. Like that's not how that works. But then like. I think that was like an example of the fog, like just a moment to give you a bit of hope, and then it just snaps you back to reality with the gunshots, and you're like, oh, never mind, I fucking forgot. This is a Holocaust film.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one.
I'm mostly
no one
finding
escapes.
off-putting because it's like it's just a kid standing there, you know, like he's
Yeah.
supposed to represent the hope and it felt a little bit, a little bit pandering, but they all just went back to the reality they set up in the first place, and they stuck to that, which I appreciate because that's how it is.
I don't know if I'd call it pandering, but I understand that perspective. I understand that it's like a little bit of a thing where it's like, oh, that's a little weird. But I don't know if I call it pandering. But what I would call it is a bit oh God, I forgot the word. It feels a bit. It caught me off guard when I first saw it. I remember when I was like, what? Like, isn't there a concentration camp? Like literally, like across the river? Like, why is there just a random little boy here? I don't know. It was a little off-putting, but I think that, like, I still think that I wouldn't take it out of the movie for anything.
No.
I seriously wouldn't. Because,
One of the best parts for me. It was so good.
Yeah, I think that the ending was a perfect, like, little snapback to reality right before the credits. And then it kind of just leaves you in that mood of...
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
If Son of Saul ended with "Lose Yourself" during the end credits, that would have been amazing. I just heard "Clap Back to Reality" and I just thought of Eminem.
I don't think it's like my second favorite Holocaust movie. I don't think it comes anywhere near to the quality of Come and See, but I don't think many movies
see that as a Holocaust film. I mean, yeah, there's Holocaust footage at the end of the movie, but that movie is more about the
it's not really a Holocaust
invasion. I don't know if I would call that a Holocaust movie. So I guess by that, Come and See. I just don't know if I would call that a Holocaust movie, simply because yes, I agree. Yes, there is Holocaust footage at the end of the film, but it's not. But it's mainly a film about the Belarusian invasion, I believe.
Yeah.
Or the invasion of Belarus.
This is like Son of Saul explicitly takes place in Auschwitz, like during the Holocaust.
Yeah. I think Come and See is more a bit like
it's just
like
an
fill in the
anti-war
blanks
film.
kind of thing. Well, I mean, I can see why people call it a Holocaust film, and hell, there are people who I don't really correct people when it comes to when they say, "Oh, it's definitely a Holocaust film." It's like I don't see it as that, but I can see why people do. I don't correct them saying it's not a Holocaust film. I just say in my eyes it's not a Holocaust film, but I can see why in other people's eyes it is.
Bob, did you want to explain why Schindler's List, the differences between Schindler's List and Son of Saul? I think you wanted to say something about that.
Okay, yeah. So, like, I feel that Son of Saul is more focused about the personal experience of someone during, like, such a horrific period in the history of humanity. And Schindler's List is more like the collective, sugar-coated Hollywood American perspective of the Holocaust. Schindler's List is always like trying to show us all sorts of stuff through this lens, and Son of Saul is like going the complete other way. It isn't like afraid to like drown us in like horrific imagery and sound and stuff like that.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I haven't seen Schindler's List. From what I've heard of it,
I haven't seen it since freshman year of high school, and I'm probably not going to see it again for a very long time because I just don't have any interest.
Yeah, it seems kind of the Hollywood manipulative.
Yeah, I had to watch it in my theology. I had to watch it in like my theology class in high school, and it just got ruined for me because our theology professor, he would just spoil movies before like the events happen.
Oh, fuck that!
Yeah. He was dead at like, yeah, you see the girl in the red dress? Here's what's gonna happen to her by the end of the movie. And I was like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Man, I would legit be fucking pissed off in the middle of class.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see that girl that the dude is hanging out with? Okay, so we're watching Old Boy in class, right? You see that girl? Guess what happens to her?
Guess what?
No. It's like, no, fuck no. Another thing I want to touch up on Son of Saul is the criticisms. There are many people who criticize passage of time in the film, and I do not understand why. I frankly do not think that it takes very long to get how much time passes in the film. Literally, it took me 30 seconds because throughout the first act, when the boy's body is completely untouched, that's around a day, I would say. And then throughout the rest of the film, then there's the pit scene, which would be, I believe, the transfer into the second day. and then there's one more day, I believe. I believe, and then it's the day of the escape. So I believe the film takes place over the course of 3 days. That's how I see it. It didn't take much time for me to figure that out. And I think that people who criticize it didn't take a minute to like just think about it. Like seriously, it didn't take it. When I first saw the movie, I read those criticisms and I was like, but there's this and this and this. And keep in mind, the body doesn't decompose. The boy's body doesn't decompose, so
yeah.
it can't have been more than it couldn't have been more than a week. I think it's pretty easy. I think that people who just straight up criticize passage of time didn't really stop to think about how things are. Like, I'm glad that passage of time isn't explicitly communicated in the film, because I believe that the director understood that you could get it from there. And then another criticism that people seem to have is with makeup.
Huh?
And specifically, I think specifically with the blood on his mouth, like in the film. Really? That's the big criticism?
No.
If that's your big criticism, I mean, really? Like,
The makeup was.
I thought the makeup was fucking
Makeup's
fantastic.
fantastic.
Yeah, you can see over the course of time, which is done really well. He progressively gets more like visibly unwell or visibly ugly because he's just
because
dirty.
he's just going through hell.
Yeah.
You could literally
Totally.
he loses his hat a couple times. Like there's a clear communication of like through makeup of exactly what he's going through.
Exactly.
Like literally the character, like Saul doesn't really have a lot of dialogue. He doesn't really speak much. I mean, he does here and there, but he doesn't really. He really only says like, "I'll help," or he like answers a question. He doesn't really do much aside from that. He he doesn't really say much aside from that.
His eyes say it all.
Yeah, because the actor was so good that he didn't need to say much. He didn't need to like say, "Oh my God, this is hell on earth." It's like all right, we get it. It's hell on earth. He didn't need to say shit like that. Like
There's a lot of small details and subtext that I really enjoyed, where he goes to find the rabbi outside, and he throws his shovel in the water, and he gets him, practically killed.
It is kind of solid.
To the shore.
Rabbi died.
The Nazis put the rabbi's hat on top of Saul, and I found it to be like a little symbol of how he has to bear with his death and like
wear the hat of the man you murdered,
and how it eventually builds up and takes a toll on Saul himself. Just stuff like that just adds so much life and passion to the story.
I remember when I first saw it, I exhaled like really hard because I knew what was coming next. I was like, "Oh God, no!" No. All right. And again, it's another example of. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, it just serves to a testament for like y'all have been talking about all the like a lot of the violence happens off screen, and that's just another perfect example of that.
I was just about to say that. Yeah,
it gets pulled off, and you just hear the gunshot, and it feels more visceral that way. Like it feels better than if you were to actively see like them shoot the guy in the head.
Yeah, it would feel like the director's forcing you to look at it. Like, he's dying. Don't you see? It's like we get it.
That's the other like interesting comparison to Haneke that I like about this movie. It's a lot of the violence in Haneke movies usually happen off screen, so it's more like implied stuff because like nothing is scarier than what you think up in your own head, really.
Anyway, those criticisms just don't make sense to me. They really don't. Because those are the criticisms that people say when they like the film. Like seriously, I think that was like one of YMS's criticisms too. It's just I don't get it. I don't see it. I really don't see it. It took me 30 seconds to figure out the passage of time thing, and I genuinely do not understand the makeup criticism.
I feel like it's also deliberate, If you feel lost in the passion of time or location or whatever, it's very much implied so you can get into Saul's headspace more.
And honestly, it doesn't. I don't think you're meant to know how much time
it's never
has
like the
passed.
focus of it.
Even then, my guess is a very rough estimate because you're meant to be sucked into like, oh God, what day is it? I don't even remember. Kind of feel of the movie.
Yeah.
That's the point of the film. So I don't see why people say passage of time is a criticism because it's not the point of the film. It's like criticizing funny games for not being funny. Like that's not the point of the movie. I just wanted to address that because I've wanted, like, you guys have heard me on this Discord. I've shit on that criticism constantly, I just wanted it out there in the world that like the criticism at large does not make sense. Just saying. There we go. That's all. That's all I got on that.
Yeah, it's very intentional how that's like put out. It felt like climax in that like the movie is like it's pretty short. It's like an hour and 45 minutes, but it feels so much longer, and that adds to the experience of the film.
Yeah, but not like longer in that it feels boring. It feels longer as if like actual like you're going through it kind of thing.
Exactly.
It apparently it won the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film.
Golden Globe, but who cares about that award show?
Yeah, I don't give a shit about the Golden Globe. I don't even think I think it's actually no. I actually did this win the Oscar? I think it actually did. It did? Oh yeah, it totally did.
Why didn't it win Best Film?
Oh yeah, that was the same Oscars that Pixar gave themselves an award.
Oh yeah, pieces of shit.
Wait, what happened?
And
You
also,
know about
I
this?
wonder if it won the Palme d'Or too. If it was even nominated. It's a grand.
They won the Palme.
Oh no, it didn't. No, it didn't win. It didn't win, but it was nominated. But it did win the grand jury prize. So.
Wait, what's the Pixar thing?
Yeah,
Okay,
what's the Pixar thing? I'm trying to remember specifically.
All right.
I can't really remember.
Okay, so the movies for Best Animated Feature nominated were Anomalisa, Boy in the World, Shaun the Sheep movie, When Marnie Was There, and Inside Out. So obviously Inside Out was going to win because it's Pixar, right? Obviously that's whenever the Pixar movie that gets that much attention and high critic scores, it's going to win the Oscar, regardless of whether or not it's as good as the other films. But like specifically I was pissed off by it because they literally did an animation segment where Buzz and Woody literally presented the award. So it was literally Buzz and Woody saying, and the Oscar goes to Inside Out. Like, fuck off. I completely understand why Charlie Kaufman was pissed off. Like, fuck that.
Oh yeah. That was like them rubbing it in his face.
Literally. And Anomalisa had no chance of winning.
Of course it didn't, because it has because
it's authentic artistic expression, and not
because it's an expression from a director, not not like a soulless film about. All
right. So did anybody else want to say anything before we wrap up?
Well, I want to say one more thing, and I think that this is an example of an homage to Come and See done right. Because there are examples of that done wrong, like The Painted Bird, which is a piece of shit. Fuck that movie. Also, one more thing I want to touch up on is that the director doesn't communicate whether the kid is actually his son or not, and there's actually like a debate online of between fans of the movie whether it's his son or not. And I wonder what you guys think.
I actually was confused by that on my first watch, but I still don't think it's his actual son. I just think he kind of like adopted him so he can give himself this glimmer of hope and a motivating force.
Give himself closure over his real son who probably died.
Yeah, it would be way too convenient and contrived if it was like his actual son that just happened.
It would also be a bit manipulative in a way, I feel like.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
Oh, here we go. I'm looking at the trivia page. The film is set over the course of a day and a half.
That makes sense. That tracks. Because there's like a whole nighttime sequence. There's only like one. Yeah, there's only like one nighttime sequence, like right in the middle of the movie.
There you go. The answer. People who have that criticism, you have an answer.
Damn.
Stop complaining. No, I'm just kidding.
Damn, you were just roasting the shit out of YMS during this chat.
Anyway, I also really love that they communicate that Saul. Actually, it's not really communicated much in the film as much as it's communicated by the director himself. Is that Saul is not a religious person? Like he apparently you don't need a rabbi to bury someone in that way that he was trying to do it. Yeah. You need apparently it says here that you need 10 people saying the Kaddish. So he never gets that right because he goes on this whole journey trying to find the rabbi, and I think that's and I think that was done. That clearly was done on purpose. I think it was to represent just the craziness of that scenario. Like he was trying to find that rabbi. He was like going through. He was literally just jumping through hoops trying to get this rabbi, only for him to realize that he actually wasn't able to fully bury his son, and the rabbi wasn't even a fucking rabbi. He was like a guy pretending to be a rabbi. And also, I think that the whole burial in the water where he kind of let the body go was actually more purposeful. I think that was incredibly effective. And Aaron, I remember you texting me in the middle of the film. You were like, dude, I'm fucking drowning right now. And I was like, oh my God, for real?
Yeah. I was
and you were like, no, I'm just watching the movie. Yeah. There's not much to say. I love the film. It's incredible. Great Holocaust film. Also, just a great character investment piece, I think. You really get invested in the character, and that is I think that is incredibly effective, especially in this kind of movie. I honestly would call it probably my favorite Holocaust film, if I didn't already say that. I like it more than The Pianist, and yeah. I don't have much else to say aside from that. My rating was originally a 9 when I first saw it, but over the course of this past year and a half, I've seen it more, and I'm just coming right out. It's one of my top 20 favorite films. I'm giving this one a 10 out of 10. It needs a fucking Criterion.
Yes.
Soon. And the fact that they gave it to Cold War by Pavel Pawlikowski, which was a good movie.
It's a good movie, though.
But they don't give Son of Saul one is blasphemy. How dare they? No, it's a good movie, but they should give Son of Saul Criterion as well. I really hope so. That's like one where I would love to watch like a behind the scenes featurette.
Yeah, there's
or
not
something.
much behind the scenes at all. Even on the Blu-ray, it's just a commentary and the Q&A.
Yeah, I would also love to see a other people's interpretations of it, like the Criterion always does. Someone writes an article on it. I would love to see someone else's perspective on that. So Criterion, if you're listening, get Son of Saul on the collection now.
Yes.
You'll get money. All right, that's all I got to say. 10 out of 10. Son of Saul is a 10 out of 10. Grub, what'd you think?
9 out of 10.
All right.
I loved it.
Jacob, what'd you think?
9 out of 10.
Awesome. Finkel, what'd you think?
Mr. 10, back at it again.
Hell yeah, Mr. 10. Seth, what do you think, man?
It's definitely one of the better Holocaust movies out there. Wait, anything. It's a 9 out of 10.
Awesome, man. Talk about boring ratings. I thought Night of Living Dead was boring. Jesus. Aaron, what do you think?
It's a great movie. Everybody needs to watch it. It's very underrated or overlooked, I would say. Not many people know about it.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's fantastic. 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Bob.
It's a really great movie. Very well made. I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Awesome. Vinny, what do you think? Man?
Yes. Very wholesome movie. Show it perfect date movie.
Shut the fuck up, Vinny.
All right. It's an absolute masterpiece. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10.
Awesome. All right. We still have one more thing to do, and that is the recommendation for next time. And who is it?
Oh shit, it's me. I forgot. Let's go.
All
right, Finkel, talk about it.
Finkel.
Already.
Wait, Mikey, Nicky, let's go.
Really? Let's go.
Awesome. I actually watched it with my dad and my brother last night because I bought the Blu-ray and they loved it. So.
Hell yeah.
I've got 2 watches.
Is there a Blu-ray in
awesome.
the UK?
I don't
hope so. It's fucking better. Hey, Criterion, you guys are assholes. Sell your shit in Region B. Fucking hell.
There's not one in the UK.
God, bullshit.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what the recommendation was. Did you say it? Or...
Mikey and Nicky.
Mikey and Nicky. Okay, I've never seen it.
Starring Peter Falk, and John Cassavetes. Directed by Elaine May.
Best performance
released
ever.
in 1976.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
This not party.
Nice.
Okay. Nice.
Nice. Thank you very much for. Oh yeah, watch Mikey and Nicky. Spoilers for next discussion. We always talk about spoilers, so if you actually want to be involved in the conversation, do watch Mikey and Nicky, or else you will be spoiled thoroughly for the movie. That's it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody.
Goodbye.
Anybody else wants to
Bye.
Goodbye. All right. Goodbye.
You better watch
Goodbye.
Mikey and Nicky.